What's going on YouTube? So it's hard to overstate the significance of the Outback to Subaru, since it's not only their most recognizable nameplate, but it's also their best selling. Over the last few years, its popularity has been exploding, and so far this year it has sold 130,000 units of the outgoing model. That's why we came out to Quantrell Subaru as soon as the first all-new 2020 model arrived. And of course, if you're in the market for any new Subaru, make sure you stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see if this is the best Outback ever built. So getting things started with the exterior, as is typical with most redesigned Subarus, they haven't rocked the boat a whole lot. The design in the front is especially familiar, though if you look closely you will see that the grille shape has been gently reworked, and there is more black cladding along the bottom to amplify the rugged look. As far as the headlights, they have also subtly changed, since the position of the LED bulb and the turn signal have switched this year. This LED setup used to be optional last year, but is now standard, and adaptive LEDs with a slightly different design come on the Limited and the Touring. Finally, at the bottom, all but the base model have LED fog lights, and all models have 8.7 inches of ground clearance. As far as the side, the main difference compared to the outgoing generation is the upward swoop at the window, which also kind of matches the newfound swoopiness of the taillights. They are partially LED across all models, and then down below there is more black cladding and a hidden exhaust outlet. So all in all, the exterior of the Outback didn't change a whole lot, but they did change the parts that matter to give it a fully modern look. Now turning our attention to the wheels, there are 3 different designs, all of which are new this year. These are the 17-inch alloys that come on both the base and premium models, while upgrading to Limited or Touring gets you 18-inch contrast alloys. Finally, the XT Onyx Edition has special black finished 18-inch alloys. Next up, we have the mirrors, which are body colored on all but the base trim, and on our model with package 15, we have the projection light and auto dimming abilities. And that same package also adds BSM to this premium. However, beyond BSM, all the other safety systems are standard across the board. That means even the base model has automatic pre-collision braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beam headlights. Additionally, Limited and Touring also enjoy rear automatic braking. But anyways, that pretty much does it for the outside. So now let's go ahead and check out the much larger changes to the cabin. So on the all-new Outback, you will find their smart entry system standard on the Limited and up. However, on this premium, we do have it optioned on still with Subaru's traditional smart key fob. Now, as far as remote start, you can do that via the StarLink app. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, Subaru does integrate a sensor behind the handle, so all you have to do is just grab it. Alright, so taking a first look inside the all-new 2020 Outback. What I can tell right off the bat about the cabin is that it kind of has a mixture of both familiar and all-new design cues for the Subaru brand. Now, like always, the first thing we're going to talk about are your cabin materials and colors. So on your base through your premium trim, it will come standard with cloth seating like this one has here. The new Onyx Edition comes with this special StarTex, basically a waterproof upholstery. Then when you go up to the Limited, you get real leather, and the Touring now comes with Napa leather for 2020. As far as your colors, slate black for the base model only. Premium through Limited come with the additional color options of titanium gray or this model's warm ivory. And then finally with your Touring, that's going to come with the special exclusive Java brown color only. Alright, now turning over here to your door trim, it is surprisingly nicely appointed, being the premium model is close to the base. So we do have a leatherette material all across the armrest here with a real stitching detail. Through here is a cloth to match with the cloth seating, and all the top part here is padded with a faux carbon fiber trim. Two-person memory seating would be standard on the Limited and up, and then our front two windows are one-touch automatic. Now coming to the seat here, Subaru has nicely included this 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support as standard equipment on all but the very base model. And then like I already said, this specific premium does come with the cloth seating, but I have to say I'm very impressed by the way this looks. Really a cool design. I like that they're not penalizing you for going with the more affordable model because we still have color contrast, different textures, stitching. So it actually looks very attractive and it's very comfortable to set in. Now probably the single biggest change of the all-new Outback is just how big of a step forward this cabin is. Definitely has some of the best materials in the entire Subaru lineup, and that does carry over even for this more basic premium model. So across our upper dash, it does have a soft touch plastic, but then this entire middle portion is impressively all covered in a leatherette material with a genuine stitching detail. So once again, that is very unexpected. Down here you have more of that leatherette with some more stitching. And in typical Subaru fashion, everything fits together really precisely and feels extremely solid. Now once again, the push button start does come with smart entry, so that would be Limited and up as standard equipment or optional on this premium. And when you press it, you'll see the most impressive new feature for 2020. And that is this brand new 11.6-inch high-resolution touch display for the infotainment system. Now, this is actually standard on the premium and up, so the only model that won't have it is the base model, and it will instead have two separate 7-inch displays. But I'll go into the actual software and stuff a little later in the video, but definitely very impressive for this type of vehicle, and at this price point, I don't think any of the other rivals have anything like this. Now checking out the gauges over here, they are pretty much your traditional Subaru design. So you have analog gauges and then a 4.2-inch multi-function display in the middle. You can just cycle through all your traditional information right through here related to trips and whatnot. But the big change for 2020 kind of takes us back over here to this display, since everything is pretty much integrated in here. The previous 6-inch display that used to be stacked up here on the top on recent Subarus is now integrated right here across this top bar. So what you'll do is you can just scroll through here and you'll see that same kind of information where you have kind of just the status of different features. So you have your X mode, you've got weather, engine temperature, and you can fill this out to be whatever you want it to be. But basically it just acts as kind of a shortcut and an assistant display to this main stuff here and for that multifunction display. Now coming back to the steering wheel, of course you do have electric power assisted steering, and Subaru does nicely include their leather wrapped steering wheel on all but the very base model. You do have all of your traditional phone, voice, and audio controls over here, as well as some related to this safety systems and your adaptive cruise control. And as far as the steering wheel itself, it is manually adjusting across the board, and you will also have heating if you go for the 2.5i Touring or both the XT Limited and XT Touring. Now moving on to interior storage. Of course, this is a mid-size crossover, and it does have mid-size crossover amounts of space. So now this center console here does open up in two different pieces. So you'll notice you'll pinch this side right here, and it does bring you to a shallow little storage area for something small. Pinch the other side, and this will open you up to the general large center console part. You do have a nice felt lining down at the bottom. This was a 12-volt outlet inside of there. Up in front of that, we have two huge cup holders. You will also notice that one of them comes with a height adjuster to make it a little bit taller. And then in the very front here, we have a bin. It does go back pretty decently, and it is deep. And then this is where you find your two charging USB ports as well as your aux jack. Now coming over here to your shifter, it is a traditional shifter shared with most of the other new Subaru models. So it's very simple to use. All you have to do is pull back for drive, bump to the left if you want to shift manually through the now 8 simulated gear changes. And Subaru has nicely included paddle shifters to control those ratios, and that's standard across all the models. Now when we head into reverse, of course, you will find a standard backup camera. All the models do also have the dynamic guidelines like this one, and it does take up this top portion of the screen. Now new this year is a front-facing camera, not a 360 camera, but a front-facing camera to be used in off-roading or parking situations, and that comes on the Touring models and the new Onyx edition. And we do also have an electronic parking brake. Alright, so now that pretty much brings us up here to this whole display area. This is where most of the features of this cabin are located. So we'll just work our way up as usual. So we're going to start down here with the climate controls. Now Subaru has included automatic climate control standard across the board. However, you have 2-zone automatic when you go for the premium and up. So what you'll notice about this is basically that you have both virtual and physical buttons to control it. So I do like that, the fact that you can quickly adjust the temperature, for instance, without having to click into anything. And you do have all your features located pretty easily. You don't have to click through a bunch of menus. This will always stay here. Now, one of the things Subaru is keen to point out is that this climate control actually has a separate processor than the main display. They've done it that way so that you won't have any lag or anything like that when you're trying to adjust the climate, which is kind of a critical function. And I have seen that in some of the other vehicles that integrate this all into one thing. Now Subaru has also done away with the hard buttons for the seat adjustments. So what you'll notice is you click that, expands out. This is where you'll turn on the seat heating. This is surprisingly standard on all but the base model as well, but seat ventilation is going to be reserved for only the Touring models. Right, now moving on up the side here, you'll come to the volume knob. It is, of course, as you can see, a physical volume knob to control the audio system. The base model comes with 4 speakers. Most of the models come with 6 speakers. But the Limited and Touring will come with the 12-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. We, of course, have that middle option, so let's go ahead and take a sample. Sound quality of this system is actually surprisingly good for a basic sound system. So now we are into the center section. This is where the actual infotainment system itself lives. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Now, of course, like I already said, this is definitely the biggest change of the 2020 Outback inside this cabin, being that you now have this large high-tech display, which no other Subaru before this has ever had. So everything is now on this display, besides for these few physical buttons on the side. So what you'll do is you just hit the home button, and it populates in all of your applications onto the home screen here. You can scroll over and add more, and you can also rearrange these and customize it kind of like a smartphone. So we'll go ahead and just kind of hop through some of the basic functions here. This is our TomTom navigation system. This comes standard on the Touring only, but you can add it to the lower trim levels like this Premium. As you can see, this actually is pretty detailed and it's very responsive to pinch to zoom and whatnot, and I do like how much of the display it takes up. Additionally, you will also find Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard across the board. If you don't buy the navigation system, you'll still have access to Google Maps or Apple Maps. Hopping into our media here, you've got your sources lined up across the top that you can go between, and then we're paired to the standard Bluetooth, so you can click through that and play and pause like so. I do also like that the queue is available right there underneath of the where the music is playing, so you can quickly select a certain song that you want to play and go straight to that. These are just some of the benefits of having this much real estate. They just have a lot of extra features that you won't find on a usual oriented 8-inch display, let's say. Now, since they pretty much eliminated a lot of physical controls, this is a very important button now. This is your car button. Now what this does is bring up different things related to the vehicle that may have been represented physically before on the outgoing model. For example, the X mode button is now here, so you'll turn that on and off like that. You can also turn on and off the traction control here and your vehicle hold. And then you've got various other things for your driver's assistance systems, as well as different types of chimes and your auto start stop system. On the other side of that, you've got this little head. This is where you can link driver profiles to the key fob. That way you can really customize the system to what you like, and then it can switch to, say, your spouse that uses a separate key fob to have their own preferences there. But anyways, that pretty much sums up the differences of this system versus the regular StarLink system. We do have a dedicated tech help video available if you want to learn more about the StarLink system in general, and a link to that is provided in the video description. Now moving on up here, we do have an auto dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes. That's normally a limited and up feature, once again optioned onto this Premium. And this Premium also has the power tilt and slide moonroof. This is usually reserved for only the 2.5i Touring and the XT Limited or Touring, but we have options for that on this model specifically. It is the regular sized unit with the windscreen. There is not a panoramic one offered like on the Forester. I believe that is because of the owners that frequently use the roof rails. Nevertheless, something to keep in mind if you're cross-shopping this. But overall, I have to say I am extremely impressed by the cabin of this 2020 Outback. Now, production right now is really low. They're just now starting to get to the dealership, so this was the only model we could get a hold of. That being said, I was kind of wondering how nice the cabin of the Premium model would be, since that's close to the base model, and it's on the lower end of the spectrum. But I have to say, you're really not giving up that much of anything when you go for this affordable model. This is probably the model to get, actually, because you have so much of the technology and also a lot of the luxury and really high quality cabin materials that the upper end models have. So overall, very impressed. Alright, so that does it for the front part. Now I'll hand it off to my brother Mason, who will check out the back seats and the cargo area.
So coming back to the rear seats of the all-new 2020 Subaru Outback, you're going to find a good amount of space just like you would have last year. So you're going to find 40 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom. For reference, that does put it on par with the Subaru Forester, and it does also make it a little bit larger than the Edge, Murano, and Santa Fe. Now turning over to the door trim, you do have a very nice one. On this premium model, this is cloth all the way through here, but you do have leather through your armrest portion. You have your window, as well as a bottle holder and a little storage beside that. Now coming over to the seats themselves, I'm a really big fan of the cloth. It does have a lot of color contrast, which I really like, and the seat itself does also recline if you use this little lever. Now here in the center, the Outback does have plenty of features, but on this premium model we are missing the rear vents. I assume that would be on the higher end models. And down below that you will find smart charging USB ports, which is a really nice touch, and those are actually standard on all but the very base model. Now I do also want to point out that if you opted for the Limited or Touring, or any of the XT models, you would also get heated rear seats back here. Now in the center we do have a fold-in armrest. It does have cup holders in the end. And up top we do have a quality headliner, some lighting, as well as a coat hook and assist grip. Now as far as the rear legroom is concerned, like I said, this is actually quite large. So behind rear seating position I have about 6 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, so everyone's definitely going to be comfortable back here. Now the seats themselves do also hold 60-40 split, so all you have to do is locate this little button, and they do fold right down. Now coming around to the tailgate, this is one of the areas where the 2020 model has changed, and that's that it now offers a hands-free power tailgate. So now we do have the hands-free power tailgate on the Limited and Touring trims, as well as the XT, or you can option on to this Premium, which is what we have done. So in order to open it, all you have to do is walk up to the Subaru emblem, place your hand, and it will sense it, and then open right up. Now once you're inside the all-new 2020 Outback's trunk, you're going to find another large amount of space. You'll find 33 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, and that expands to 76 cubic feet if you fold them. Now for reference, once again, that is a little bit smaller than the Subaru Forester, however it is larger than the Murano and Ford Edge. Now as far as how they finish it back here, it is finished very nicely, so you do have a cargo cover, as well as a little storage back here, and underneath the floor, we do have a little bit of storage space up under here. And Subaru was nice enough to include the little handles to fold the seats from back here. So all you have to do is just grab it, and it does fold right down. Now coming over to the passenger seat, it is manual on this model, but if you opt for the Limited or higher, it would be power. And in front of the passenger, you have some storage right here, and down below that, we have a good sized glove box, and impressively, it is nicely felt lined. Now in addition to that, we do have a little storage cubby right here, and up top, we do have a sun visor with lights and a mirror, and it does also detach as well as extend. But anyway guys, that sums up all of the rear areas of this all new Outback. So now let's go ahead and get on the road and see how it drives out there.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain situation with this 2020 Outback. Now like last year, it does come with two different engine choices. So you got the base 4-cylinder engine, that is the 2.5 liter Boxer 4-cylinder, producing 182 horsepower and 176 pound-feet of torque, which is the same as in the Forester. Now, whereas that model no longer offers an XT, the big news is that the Outback has brought back the XT, so we now have a return to turbocharged power with the Outback. The 3.6 liter V6 has been discontinued in favor of a 2.4 liter turbocharged boxer 4-cylinder. That produces 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, so definitely very good numbers.
Yeah.
As far as your transmission, it will always be the Lineartronic CVT, but you now have 8 simulated gears instead of 7 previously. And of course, you have symmetrical all-wheel drive standard equipment on every Outback regardless. Finally, as far as your fuel economy, you will see good improvements over last year. So the base engine is up 1 mpg combined to 26 city, 33 highway, 29 combined. However, where you're going to notice the biggest improvement is going to be with over the previous V6 to this new turbocharged 4-cylinder. That's rated for 23 city, 30 highway, 26 combined, up 4 mpg over last year. And really still good. Definitely very noteworthy is how good fuel economy that is for that type of power as well. But anyways, that's enough of the specs. Let's take it out on the road and see how much different it is out there. Alright, so first taking off in the 2020 Outback. This is the base engine, the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. This will be what most people will choose that historically they have, and while maybe more people will choose the turbo than the previous V6 because of the fuel economy improvements, still the majority of people are going to choose this base engine. So while this doesn't get all the headlines and stuff like the XT, it's very important that this model be very good. And initially, my initial impressions here are that it feels really quite peppy. I'm very surprised. Just kind of barely getting onto it. It really, power feels really good. I've driven this engine in several smaller Subarus, but this definitely gets this vehicle moving quite swiftly.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be that powerful, really.
Also, just right off the bat, I just want to go ahead and talk about the CVT. Extremely responsive. You can just tell how quickly it responds to the way that I change my position on the throttle. It's not got any of that CVT lag where you put it down and it has to figure it out and, you know, just kind of wail around and whatever. You know, if I press lightly, we kind of just stay right here. When I press down heavier, it immediately jumps it up and gets me going in an appropriate way, and then brings it back down almost like a traditional gear shift. Now it's not really doing any type of simulation. Some vehicles, like the newest Nissan Altima, for instance, even when you're just driving normally, it basically uses the CVT to simulate gear changes. Yeah. That's not happening here. However, like I already said, it doesn't, you don't feel any of that rubber bandness or anything. And you can use the paddles if you want to still kind of have that traditional shifting experience. Now we do also have an auto start stop system as well here on the Outback. That of course is brand new, and the Forester was the first Subaru to have that just last year. So when this red light turns green, we'll see how quickly and how smoothly it starts up. Very nice, very smooth and quick. Also noticed while it was on, it actually had this interesting timer.
I was wondering what that was.
yeah, definitely good power. But returning back to that, yeah, the auto start stop, it's timing how long it's been activated, not just like on this one occasion, but at total, and telling you how much gas it estimates that is saved by you using the auto start stop. So for instance, it said so far all the auto start stop sessions have added up to 0.8 gallons estimated savings. So that's kind of a neat thing, and I think it's a good idea to tell people why they should
leave it on.
Maybe want to use it, because a lot of people are just, you're just going to turn it off and never use it. But if it's a nice and smooth one, you may be something you want to consider.
You know, and another thing that I'm noticing, just kind of cruising here at about 40 miles an hour, it's so comfortable here in the Outback. You know, I expected it to ride, you know, very smooth and stuff, but I didn't really expect it to ride as luxurious as it does. This honestly feels like a very luxurious ride. It's almost like a luxury car. Like when you hit a bump, you don't feel it, and it's just really quiet in here. I'm impressed.
One of the other really obvious improvements about this new model is just kind of the way that it feels overall with the balance and the steering. Now, Subaru says the structural rigidity of this has actually increased by 70%, which seems like outrageous, you know. But you can actually tell that. It definitely has just this really solid feel. Not that the previous one didn't feel solid, but this just feels, I guess, uncharacteristically solid for an affordable vehicle. It just has this solidity. The steering now is really more responsive and a lot more communicative. And as you can see, it changes directions lightning fast, and it just has this kind of agile feel. The Outback, that's one of the big benefits of the Outback, is that it kind of just straddles this line between crossover and wagon. You know, you have a lot of the same benefits, but it is still kind of many parts wagon as it is SUV. So you get kind of a more of a sedan-like driving experience. But all in all, I have to say, very impressed by the way this Outback drives. And really just overall quite impressed by the overall package. You know, you're really getting a lot for your money, especially as we've discussed. We're driving the premium model. We haven't been in like the XT or anything like that, but even just on this basic premium model, we have all of the tech and most of the improvements and new stuff that they added to the Outback lineup. And then as far as the base engine is certainly not a penalty. The vast majority of people will be more than satisfied with that type of power, and especially enjoy the fuel economy and the improved driving dynamics versus a more traditional mid-size crossover.
Alrighty, and now let's go ahead and talk about the pricing of this all-new Outback. So there are quite a few different trim levels that I'm going to go through. They did add quite a few new trim levels this year. So for the very base 2.5i model, that's going to come in at $26,645, which is worth noting that's about $300 up over the 2019 model, which is actually, that's pretty good. You know, normally they change it by $1,000 or $2. But if you want to go for the premium model, which is what we have here, that starts at $28,895. The limited starts at $33,495. And then you have the XT Onyx Edition for $34,895. The 2.5i Touring for $37,345. The XT Limited for $37,745. And then finally you have the XT Touring for $39,695. Now this particular Outback has opted for pretty much every option that the premium model can get. So we have the option package 15 for $2,995, the external auto dimming mirrors for $607, splash guards for $172, the rear bumper cover for $159, all-weather floor liners for $132, and the rear seat back protector for $104. And then finally, when you add the destination charge of $1,010, this particular model, as equipped, comes in at $34,074, which is, you know, I have to say, it's a very, very good value. You know, I was very pleasantly surprised. You know, at a car in $34,000 range, you expect the interior to be kind of basic, and I'm really not feeling that with this car.
Well guys, we've enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the all-new 2020 Subaru Outback. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.